From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello everyone, I'm News Channel 5's political analyst Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. This week on Inside Politics, we continue our conversations with the men and women who seek to be our next governor. Our guest is Franklin businessman and farmer Bill Lee. Mr. Lee is a candidate in the Republican gubernatorial primary on August 2nd. Bill, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Pat. Thanks for having me.
We're beginning our interviews with these candidates with pretty much the same questions, and the first one may be the most simple but the most profound. Why are you running for governor? I mean, you're spending your entire life going across the state for the last year and a half, eating lots of barbecue.
That's right.
Why?
It's interesting you asked that, because that's probably the #1 question I get asked almost every day on the campaign trail. Why would you get involved in politics? The core of that answer for me is, I have a real deep desire to use my life to impact other people's lives for good and to serve. And that's born in part out of a tragedy in my life that God used in a very powerful way to help shape that perspective.
The loss of your first wife.
Loss of my first wife, and a couple other subsequent events on top of that. It was a really challenging season, but it was tragic but transformative. And I'm a conservative, I'm a businessman, I'm a farmer, and I came to believe that those life experiences combined with that perspective brought to bear on this office may in fact give me the opportunity to make life better for 6.5 million.
As you go across the state and you talk to people, what are the 3 issues that separate themselves as the most important ones facing Tennesseans?
Maria and I, my wife, who's been with me on this journey almost every day, we did an RV tour to kick off our campaign, that what we called the most aggressive grassroots campaign in the state. We went to 95 counties in 95 days. And I think no matter where we go, whether it's a rural East Tennessee county or urban center, people want a good job, and they want a good school for their kid, and they want a safe neighborhood. And those are the things that I'll be focused on as governor.
So those are the 3 issues. What steps will you take to address all 3 of those? Is it executive orders? Is it legislation to the legislature, or is it some other kind of change?
Yeah, I think leadership involves setting a course. It's casting a vision for where you want things to go, and then utilizing the legislature, leading in all ways as governor to bring about change in those 3 areas.
Are there policies or programs within the current administration, the Haslam administration, that you want to see change and you will change if you're governor?
Well, there are certainly things I want to do that I think we have not currently put enough focus on. For example, I said people want a good school for their kid. I employ 1,200 people, mostly skilled tradespeople. I have a master plumber's license myself. I have a deep belief that we have ignored vocational, technical, agricultural education for way too long. And so I think that we need to have a much greater emphasis on that in our public education system. That's part of a good school for every kid. We started a trade school in our company 10 years ago that has trained 1,000 in the trades. So I have a great deal of experience in that and a real passion around it.
Your feeling is that's something the government ought to help do, not something that private industries ought to do, as you've done.
Actually, I believe that a big government program is not the way to do it. What I think is government has a real opportunity to partner with the private sector to bring about that change. Partner with companies like mine and other companies all across the state who will be the beneficiaries of workforce development and an education system that benefits them. So I'm a believer in partnerships more. I'm a conservative, so I don't think government's the answer. I think government partnering with private and nonprofits are really part of the real answer.
The governor and the legislature this past year passed the bills that will limit the number of opioid prescriptions. They'll also work on some other things in that. They've also increased enforcement and put $30 million into treatment.
Right.
Is that enough? Isn't there a lot more they need to do, particularly in the area of treatment? What are you going to do as governor to deal with the opioid crisis? Because it'll be in whoever the next governor's lap is. This new bill will just be taking effect.
And it's a terrific crisis. And the new bill is a first step. It outlines the 3 segments of the problem, being systemic and law enforcement and treatment. And certainly the government can never spend enough money on what needs to be done for treatment. And the $30 million is a good, it casts a vision for what needs to be done But once again, I think the only way we can really deal with treatment in a substantive way is to engage the nonprofit community in that treatment process. There are nonprofits all across the state who are positioned and poised with the right partnership to bring about real change in that.
In terms of K-12 education, one issue that the next governor will face is what to do about the 10 Ready program. Susie and Johnny go to school, they take a test, but we can't seem to get the results done right, whether it's by computer, even with paper and pencil, we're having trouble. What, as next governor, would you do to change that program to make it work?
You know, in business, and I run a company and work with other industry leaders all the time, we know in business that you can't improve what you don't measure. And so measurement's important. But we also know that if you measure too much, too frequently, or you measure the wrong things, then you'll have a negative. You'll actually have the opposite impact of what you want to get by measurement.
And you have those questions about 10 Ready.
That's right.
They don't measure the right things, or they're too much testing?
I think we measure too much. I think we measure the wrong things. I think that we obviously have some challenges with the measurement process. And so there needs to be a bit of a reset on that, and to look at just how it is that we clearly need to measure, but how it is that we do it more effectively. And I'll add this. I think bringing the customers of that process, the parents and the teachers and the administrators, more into the process rather than determining what that looks like from the Department of Education, but bringing that group around the table to help formulate the plan on the reset is the way to go.
Bill Lee, a Republican candidate for governor, is our guest on Inside Politics. Back to continue our conversation with him after this break.